Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Tractor Noise. It's a special episode midweek as Town did play last night against Watford, and we are here on today's show to recap last night's game, which saw Town leave Portman Road with 1 point at home to Watford. Looking back on last night's draw, I'm delighted to say I'm once again joined by Mr. Richard Popple. Richard, 2 steps forward, 1 step backwards, which I feel at the moment. How do you feel after the result from last night?
Yeah, I suppose so. A bit of frustration, really. Obviously, it was the opportunity to put three in a row together, which would have felt like a lot of momentum, really.
Yeah.
I suppose you could look at it as another point gained, and we haven't lost the game. But yeah, it's disappointing given that you go into that, and Watford, I think they're away form. They haven't won away this season.
Bottom of the league away
I don't think they won away. Sorry.
Bottom of the league away form. I think we were the only
Yeah,
two
exactly.
away sides after last weekend before QPR.
Exactly, and they finished last season poorly away from home as well. I think it was like the last 5 or 6 they didn't win away from home. So, with all of that and given our home form, you'd have expected us to pick up the 3 points, but it wasn't to be.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, we'll have a sort of shorter episode on today's one. We're recording this literally, I'd say, 5 minutes after the game finished.
Yeah.
So these are raw thoughts on the match, and it's hard to go into it completely analytical wise, but we'll look at individuals and moments and sort of just give our opinions and all that sort of stuff, and we'll give a sort of brief look ahead to Swansea this coming weekend as well. But looking at the start 11, Richard, obviously with being a midweek game, we are going to get some changes, but I do think, considering the backlash we had with the Charlton game a week or so ago, where it was almost an entire overhaul, with the exception maybe Davis and O'Shea and the goalkeeper, until Palmer obviously had to make way with his injury, there was some more. There seemed to be a bit more consistency of the 11 this game when you look at what we had at Loftus Road on Saturday. So in goal we had Walton. At the right we had Furlong, then O'Shea and Kipre, the usual pairing. Now Ben Johnson made a rare start at left back. I think Davis had a slight injury, I think, after the game at QPR on the weekend. He was on the he wasn't even on the bench to begin with, to be honest. So just inactive for this one, so we had to have a change at left back there. Midfield pairing of Kuste and Matasi, with Jack Taylor making way after 2 really good performances back to back. On the wing, Philogene once again on the left, Egali on the right. We'll talk about him as the show progresses, because I think he was very much one of the standout features of last night's game. George Thirst up top, and then Akpom in at the 10. Richard, me and you had a little sort of a catch-up before the game. Just I think the lineup came out and we were sort of discussing some key points from that. Obviously, as I said, you are going to get some rotations on a midweek game. Obviously, only 2 days in between the match, really.
Yeah.
But I was surprised that neither Nunes or Taylor started. I know, obviously, it's a close game, but there's a lot of players who are on the pitch against Watford here who played more minutes, if or the same amount as those two did against QPR, and they started. So it was a weird one for me that neither of them played. I mean, they both came on and looked really good again when they came on as subs late in the game. So it's surprising neither of those started, in my opinion. What was your thoughts on 11 as a whole?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I'd imagine we'll see them back in the first team, at the weekend for the Swansea game. But I don't. I mean, it's difficult, isn't it? He has got a squad, with quite a lot of quality in it, and I think also there is the 3-game week thing, and it does take out a lot of the players. Basically 3 games in 6 days, and we've obviously seen a few injuries have cropped up. Leif Davis had to miss out this time. He doesn't miss many games usually. So the wear and tear is kicking in. We're a fair chunk into the season now. Getting up to kind of like a third of the way through, basically. So I think at this point in the season, it's not really worth it if it's going to mean that you're going to pick up injuries and stuff. And I know Taylor's not particularly played that much, so you would think, or Nunes to a certain extent, you would think that they'd be fit and raring to go. But I guess we don't have all of the medical inside information, do we? So we just have to trust the manager. But I think you're right, like what you said about it felt more appropriate 3 changes rather than the kind of 6 or 7 that we've seen at the other 2 midweek games in the season, at Bristol City and obviously the Charlton abomination. So I think there were lessons clearly learned from that a little bit, and he's kept it a little bit more consistent.
Yeah, agreed. And, obviously it wasn't the result we wanted here against Watford, but I thought the performance, compared to some other poor home games we've had this season, obviously Charlton, maybe even the Derby game and things like that, I think there was a better performance in this last night from some individuals. Just getting into the game, we had a good pressure to start with, as we do normally at home. Hughes had a really good chance. It was a really nice play between him and Philogene. Just kind of went a bit slightly to the wide there, but with all that early pressure, we still unfortunately conceded first with Watford's captain loser. Giving loser. That's not,
No, that is his name. That
not a
is his
nickname.
name.
Spelled Louza. I think more of a fancy spelling than it would be in
Lusa.
English. Lusa, there you go.
Yeah.
Took the lead for Watford there. Furlong kind of out of position. They were kind of queuing up at the back, and then they took it home, scored to give themselves a 1-0 lead. Just going on a bit further from then, but it wasn't that long ahead because Philogene managed to get a goal back for Town. Almost a like-for-like goal, really, in terms of how both players managed to get in a space to score, so they passed across the face. But it started that build-up with Watford's right back getting out of position and a nice ball from Cedric Kipre to Philogene to give Town the goal. Richard, just thoughts on the early stages, I guess, there, and just, it's hard to really know what was going on with the game so much tonight because it wasn't televised for all, but KG affair at the start, I think we've seen that a lot of Portman Road this season where it's hard to sort of take the game by the scruff, and it does always seem like this is the way games go for us a lot of the time at home, where we have to try and find an instant reply, or we're not sort of staking our claim from the beginning.
Well, we're not taking early leads, are we, at home? And that always helps to open the game up, because if sides are coming in with ambitions to kind of frustrate us, or to play with a bit of a low block, or play for a point. Not that maybe Watford were doing any of that, but they were certainly there to frustrate us for sure. Especially given, as we've already pointed out, they can't have much confidence on the road at the moment, given their record. So yeah, it's frustrating. We're not breaking sides down early in games. We're not really taking them to the cleaners kind of like early on. And I think we started the game all right, as you mentioned. But then we know with this team that there is a mistake in there. There's a positional mistake, which happened this time, and Watford had good players in forward positions, so they were pretty clinical. And there were plenty of people in that box lining up to put it in the back of the net. We didn't particularly react well enough, but we know that with our defence, we know that there's a sloppy play. It tends to lead to a goal. I know that there's a lot of people that sort of talk about sides only getting the odd chance against us. Even McKenna's kind of said that. He's like, we're conceding, with only having one or two chances against us. But the truth is, we're allowing sides to get into those positions through generally mistakes of our own.
Yeah.
And it's happened throughout the season, and that's why we don't really keep many clean sheets. So yeah, it was disappointing. But obviously, hitting back within 5 or 6 minutes, whatever it was obviously a good response. I think, Jayden Philogene was doing his kind of best Thierry Henry impression for more older fans out there, or Gabriel Martinelli or someone like that, flicking it in from the left to the...
Gabriel Martinelli to Henry there, are you?
Well, he kind of finishes in a similar way sometimes. I'm trying to think of other people who finish like that.
Across the face, that kind of...
lots of them do, obviously. But yeah, Henry was the very famous one who you knew he was going to do it every time, and he still managed to put it in the back of the net.
Yeah.
Philogene's not quite at that level yet, but he's very good at Portman Road and scored another goal at home.
Yeah. He's I think, like, away from home, I think the whole side, obviously with the exception of Loftus Road this past weekend, which was obviously a fantastic result. Away, it's been a bit difficult, but at home, him especially, just looks like another player. It wasn't his best performance last night, despite he did get a goal in the latter stages, was quite ineffective, as a lot of players where he was subbed on later on in the game as well, for Jack Clark, who was fantastic. I'll touch him later on the show, to be honest. I think just majority of the game really was just us predominantly on the front foot, as it is for most of the season. My take from so many games this season at home, I know we've played some sides at home and Derby, Southampton against teams who are almost near the bottom, but we're playing sides at home like Watford were one spot below us going into this game, but we're playing against them as if they're a team 20 places below us. Like, it's like, I think the way we play every game this season, it's like, I think we know we're better than most sides on paper, at least, but it's actually seeing those games off, because sides go to Portman Road knowing they're not going to see the ball that often, and they're happy to sit back and just absorb that pressure. And we haven't shown really, with the exception of that Sheffield United battering and this past week at QPR, to be able to really find the net on many occasions. It's kind of a rarity to an extent. So I think they're happy to sit back and then wait for us to almost fail over and over again, not find the back of the net, and then score one of their own, really.
Do you think it's a problem with kind of like, moving the ball? Like, are we not shifting it around the pitch fast enough?
I don't think that. I think, look, judging from this game, I think where we did pretty well. One of the reasons we had to play this way is because we had Akpom in the 10, and there's not much creativity there, and there's a bit of nervousness trying to find the ball through. So predominantly the game was being played on the wings with Philogene on the left, Clark later on in that position, then Igali on the right, who, again, I think he was fantastic man in that performance for me. The way he can put the ball in with his left foot across the face is really, really good. But we were predominantly trying to break them down by crossing the ball in and having either Hurst or later in the game Azon to try and net us in. And we had a few chances, especially from Azon in the latter stages in the last 10 minutes. He had a couple of headers to that one was slightly tame, but then that was a great save by the Watford keeper Selvig. So there was chances there. I just think we weren't able to finish them. Unfortunately, I thought there was decent creativity, like I said, especially from the wing play. But we just weren't able to break them down in this game.
What do you make of Akpom in the 10, the overall performance?
Mate, I mean, he tried a lot in this game. I bet he had a few chances and stuff, but having not found the net yet, it happens with a player whose job it is to score goals. Where he looks a bit nervous and shaky in front, and also, like I said, when he's in that 10 role, when it's time to be creative and sort of do that immediate pass out to the right or look for that player running in behind the defence, he can never find that pass for the most part, the way in which a Nunes can, or in the latter stages, Clark found and on occasion as well. And it's I don't think it's his natural position. He's obviously known for scoring goals and stuff, but obviously we are light in the 10 role with Schmodix out, and that's predominantly it with Chapman out on loan as well. It's such a dip in quality, and we saw how fantastic Nunes was in that role when he came on against West Brom, and obviously when he started in that role against QPR as well, to just took to it like a duck to water, didn't he? And he is obviously the guy in that position. I fully expect him to start again against Swansea in that role. And you saw when he came on in the latter stages, Nunes, that he just is that guy. But Akpom just doesn't look assured. He looks uncomfortable in that role, and fans don't maybe expect too much from him, and he's just not really providing anything creatively in a position that really creativity is the number one aspect to have in that part of the pitch.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would agree, and I think there's a confidence thing going on there, isn't there? I think between him and Azon now, I think they've both played 9 games this season, or both, been a part in 9 games of the season, 9 or 10 each, and no goals between them. That's a lot of football now. Even though I know quite a few of those, have been 20-minute, 30-minute appearances or whatever, but they've both had, a few starts between them as well, and there's a lot of effort, particularly, Adon always comes on and throws himself around. And obviously, we're talking a minute about some of the chances he had later in the game. It's the same with Akpom. There's been a couple of games where he's hit the woodwork this season. One of those goes in, he gets off and running, and away he goes. But I would agree with you in terms of the 10 position itself. It's really funny, isn't it? Because, both Schmodix and Akpom had the seasons that they had, the Golden Boot winning seasons that they had from that position, basically, for both of their previous clubs. But it's not quite as simple as that, because it's not the same team. It's not the personnel around you. When Blackburn had Sam Gallagher, I think is probably a better target man than George Hurst, but certainly at that point in his career he was anyway. And I think, that those kind of things matter. The relationships between players matter and stuff. So it's not just a case of saying, oh, well, they played in that position 2 years ago, 3 years ago and scored all those goals.
Yeah.
It will happen again. It's not, for whatever reason, it's just not really happening for either of them, really. So, yeah, it's a tricky position still for the club. And I think, we thought after winning finally away from home at the weekend, even though it did flatter us a little bit, if I'm brutally honest, 4-1. QPR definitely had a couple of opportunities, and we had a wobbly few moments after they scored.
Yeah.
But Nunes did look good in there, and would have been full of confidence, obviously, after scoring a couple of goals. However, he then has the opportunity to add to that tonight, and absolutely fluffs his lines to win the game later on.
Yeah, very much. There were so many chances in the latter stages. We'll look at the latter stage of the first half here. We had a chance from Kipre, who hit the post from a free kick coming in across the face and really unlucky. I think we got the pairing of O'Shea and Kipriano seems to be the one. Greaves came on in the latter stage of the game. He played in left back with Johnson going off because we were quite slim at left back, but quite good there as well. But I think Kipriano and O'Shea now is the pairing, isn't it? I can't see that changing.
Probably. I mean, we could do a sort of Arsenal or a Man City and play all of our centre backs across the back line. Yeah, so Greaves could go in there. Have we got any more, or have we just got three? I suppose Baggett, Elkin Baggett could play at right back, maybe.
I was about to say, yeah, get him on here as well.
Yeah. But yeah, you're right. It seems to be that's pairing. I don't think there's much between any of them, really, if I'm totally honest. But
it was funny on the weekend. We had the obviously after we beat QPR, we got Super Kieran McKenna chant, and obviously as the years have gone on, that the players who were involved in that chant's name's been adapted, I should say, as the squad's changed. So I was wondering, like, who's going to be because obviously it was Wolfie at the back, Ladapo or someone in attack.
Who is it now then?
So it's Dara at the back.
Kipre at the back.
Dara at the back.
Dara at the back.
Hursty. Dara at the back. Hursty in attack. And when they sung that, I thought of you immediately after like your sort of opinions of O'Shea and stuff. But like, are we that ready to sort of sing? Are we just maybe just like foolishly like leading ourselves here? Like, is O'Shea that guy to sort of be our leader at the back to win the effing league?
Well, they've anointed him as that, haven't they? By giving him the armband and everything else. So don't know who else it's supposed to be if it's not him, really.
No, true. We'll take our first break now. When we come back, we'll just sort of continue recapping the game. As Richard said, there's many chances for Town in the second half. So we'll look at those and also touch on some individuals who, despite the result, had some decent performance at Portman Road last night. So see you guys in a sec. Welcome back to part 2 of Track to Noise. Me and Richard here, recapping Town's 1-1 draw against Watford at Portman Road last night. Start the half, we touched on that already, had a really decent chance in the opening stages of 45, but just, again, looked kind of nervy, trying to find the shot on goal. Good defence from Watford. They were quite assured most of the evening and obviously went into the game knowing they have to going to be on their toes defensively and blocked many shots as the game progressed. A weird moment, Richard. I don't know if you managed to catch the whole game. Obviously, we've spoken some chances there you've seen. It was around the 53-minute mark, and to be honest, I don't know what caused it. There hasn't been a replay or another shot on it. Maybe there has by the time people are listening or watching this. But Philogene and Matasiwa actually got in a bit of a scuffle, like an altercation, with Kiyusi having to sort of pull Philogene away and O'Shea to Matasiwa. Like, weird, maybe heat at the moment, but, we haven't really seen a bit of infighting for a long time. I thought that was a bit of a strange one. Hopefully it's just a you out of position type thing rather than a deep-rooted animosity that's going to keep festering. I don't know.
Yeah, it'd be something, I suppose, if it was the latter, wouldn't it? Something's been going on in training, maybe.
Yeah.
To see what went through the back of him or something like that. I don't know. But no, I'm sure it was probably an in-game thing where one of them was, probably Philogene wasn't maybe doing his defensive work, perhaps as much as he should have been. But I don't know. I suppose that you would imagine those senior players that you've just mentioned, Dara O'Shea and Jens Kajust, would be the ones to kind of step in and stuff. So in some ways, I don't like getting into all of this cliche about like how footballers should behave to show that they are leaders, quote unquote.
Yeah.
But, I guess sort of keeping your house in order and kind of trying to stay focused on what you're trying to do, which is to win a football match. It's good. It's good from the leadership group to kind of show that sort of discipline at that point.
Yeah,
and it probably shows they care more than anything else. Hopefully, rather than a personal dislike for each other.
Yeah, absolutely. We did see around the first of the three subs came on. 3 of the 5 we had throughout the game, and it was Azon, Clark, and Taylor making with Hurst, Philogene, and Kiyuste. Touching on Kiyuste there. I spoke about it on the weekend. Obviously, now with, at the moment at least, Taylor and Matasiwa seemingly being the pairing, and we've spoken about Kiyuste and Matasiwa kind of not complementing each other as much as what Taylor and Matasiwa have done in the past few games. And Taylor again looked fantastic in the half hour or so that he was on the field last night as well. Kiyuste's creativity is something that's lacking, I feel, because last year I was watching the game last year, like. Because obviously we were absorbing so much pressure from better sides, let's be honest, we kind of maybe were blind to the fact that it was Morsey and Kiyuste or Morsey and Phillips, whoever it was. Calvin Phillips, don't get me started. Anyway, but just But we weren't really expecting a sort of creativity and attacking sort of know-how from that position that much last season, because it was kind of there to absorb the pressure, maybe get the ball to the attack. But now with us obviously dictating the play of most games now, that's an aspect you really do kind of want to see a bit more. And you don't really get that from Q-Stain. I don't think we expect it of Matasiwa. He does do a few good passes out to the wing, but I think with Taylor, we do have a nice link-up play up to the 10 on the wings. But with him right now, I don't know. Maybe he's carrying a knock. I'm not sure, but doesn't really seem to know what his best role is in the team. Like, should he be defensive or should he move forward? Because he can't control the ball as well as a number 10. But defensively, we kind of have a Matasiwa to do that job. So he's kind of a man of no job right now. I'm not sure with Q-Stay. We talked a lot about him, obviously, and we're happy to have him back, of course. But yeah, it's just not clicking so much. I'm not sure.
No, it's not, and it hasn't really all year, particularly. I don't think. I think he was okay at the start of the season, but I don't think he was much more than that.
It was like sort of just rose tinted glasses. Like, we got him back. We didn't expect to get him back, perhaps.
Yeah, I think so. There is a bit of a weird reputation thing with him, where clearly he was one of the better footballers and technical footballers in the side last year, in a side that was struggling, and I think he shone out because of that, because he could hold his own, with Premier League midfielders, and because he's so good on the ball in those first moments where he collects it and stuff and turning and things. But we've spoken about this, like in terms of his end product and stuff like that.
That's
I think he
the thing,
scored one goal last year,
Yeah.
Which was a really good goal. But yeah, he's not a particular goal threat, and he's not a bona fide defensive midfielder either. He's a little bit like Taylor. He's quite a difficult midfielder to pin down, like what they are and what their main strength is.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually blighted Taylor's time at the club, and he's actually playing potentially some of the best football he's ever played at Ipswich over the last 2 or 3 games. So good on him for kind of sticking around and having had an opportunity now, seemingly taking it, because I think he comes back in at the weekend. I think he's probably in the first choice 11 right now.
Yeah,
and I think that's good. I don't think just because you're reputationally supposedly one of the best players that you just walk into the team, because I don't think Eustace has been great. And you're right, maybe there is a knock or two. We've always been told that it was unlikely that he could play kind of like 3-game weeks and all that sort of stuff. Maybe it's caught up with him a little bit. But yeah, I think Taylor's very much deserving at the moment. And I would imagine that it will be him, Siwa and Nunes back in the 3 at the weekend.
Yeah, from Taylor, just touching him, his cameo he had in the game, well, half an hour, so it's a decent spell. Just looked like a confident player. Once you get two good games under your belt, whether you score or whether you just contribute, he just looks like he had his head on a swivel and was playing the right passes and did a really good fake to sort of draw 2 players away to try and get shot off. Unfortunately, didn't obviously come off with the scoreline being what it was, but just again, really, really good going into the game. I'm surprised. Like, football seems to be it's like it's obviously a reactive sport, isn't it? And like after a few games, if it go poorly, you're going like, oh, get him off, change him, kind of thing. But for the time being, there's no reason not to drop him just because maybe he's not the most glamorous player on the squad sheet. If he's doing his job, which he definitely is right now, keep him playing, because he's working well in the system right now. And it maybe as you said, it took some time for him to know what McKenna wanted of him, or to know how he could really perform to his best, because he was more of an attacking player at Peterborough when we got him, but we had those positions filled up, so he had to maybe kind of adapt his game, and it's taken a bit of time, but he seems to be getting there now, so it's really, really good to see. Another player to touch on, I think, as well in this game, and really on the season as a whole right now, for me, it was a man of match performance. Unfortunately, he didn't find the back of the net and get his first goal for the club. Obviously, got an assist against QPR on the weekend, and contributed to the 3rd goal on the weekend. It's Egerly. I mean, I'm more and more impressed as the games go on. And again, unfortunately, wasn't able to find the back of the net. But I said it earlier in the show, just some fantastic balls in, and just really, really threatening on his left and on his right as well. Just despite his age, he seems to continue to be, I'm not going to say worth every penny just yet, considering he is the record signing in the league and is yet to find the back of the net. But he's looking like a great player, and I think he's only going to continue to get better as the season goes on.
Yeah, it's got kind of Amari vibes from the Championship promotion season, where he took a little bit of time to warm up, And then once he did, obviously, we got an amazing second half of the season out of him, and he was very much the catalyst for that promotion campaign towards the end of that season for sure.
Mm.
And he's definitely over the last few games, he was a bit of a passenger for a few games really. And I think the pace and everything else of the league and the physicality and stuff probably was quite difficult to get to grips with, but he seems to have done now. And the good thing is he's stringing together a few performances as well. He also played 90 minutes, whereas a few players were going off, but McKenna kept him on. Philogene went off before him, for example, and you think maybe Philogene was knackered or was carrying something or whatever, but given his prowess at Portman Road, that's quite a big call, I think, to make. And McAteer, I don't think, with the best will in the world, is really pushing hard for any kind of minutes, particularly at the moment, unless there's fitness issues to other people. So yeah, he's doing really well, and I think as soon as he does get that goal, there's probably a little bit of a run in him, and it's good to see. It's really exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Another player who I think he's not starting as much as Egley is, but when he comes on, he seems to again be similar to how Taylor was when he came on, just confident and knows what to do on the ball and tries his best to break him down. Again, unfortunately, won't able to break him down. But Jack Clarke again, I thought looked really good. Again, last night. He's obviously kind of got this super sub reputation as the season's gone on, with scoring most of his goals off the bench, which it's a strange role for a player to occupy, considering he may obviously want to be starting games. But again, looks really good. What do you expect much from him? What do you expect from him this season? Like continuing in this sort of super sub role? I can't really see him usurping Philogene, to be honest. But no, he's definitely our.
No, I don't think so.
I think definitely, with the exception of maybe Nunes if he comes on as a sub. Clark's definitely our biggest impact sub and probably our best player off the bench, isn't he?
He is, yeah. But the impact that he's having is obviously, he's scoring a few goals and he's being in the right place at the right time. It's not as if he's kind of creating these things out of nowhere. Like the goals that he's scoring are kind of like follow-ups or the penalties that he's obviously put away. And that's not putting him down, but I'm just saying he's kind of like Johnny on the spot, right place at the right time sort of thing. And look, we need more of that, given how many chances we didn't take in this game. But yeah, he's having a funny season, isn't he? You think he's kind of like, it's a bit like our season in general, the club season. It's kind of like a couple of steps forward and then there's maybe one back and can't quite get going sort of thing. He's a really good player. It's just I don't think he's better than Philogene. Basically, he's tried to get them both in the same team. That's not necessarily worked. One of them could play in the 10 because it feels like that position's up for grabs, but he's not really played one of the wingers in there very much, or given that an opportunity. Egley could play in there potentially as well because he can work off both feet, maybe a little bit better than. Philogene's pretty two-footed, but I guess you're not really going to move him from where he is at the moment. But I don't know. I think at the moment he's got to settle for the bench role really, because he's had success there. That might be a little bit of a curse for him. In terms of getting into the team, I have to say I was a little bit surprised he wasn't in the team tonight. I thought he might get a start, but maybe that shows where McKenna's thinking, and he wants to keep that sort of rhythm going of him having impactful sort of 30-minute spells.
Yeah, very much so. I get someone who almost managed to break the deadlock in the latter stages. We touched on it briefly there. Marcelino Nunes, probably the biggest chance in the latter stages, just goal mouth action there. And especially after...
It was such a bad miss.
Yeah, especially after the two fantastic goals, obviously, albeit from set pieces, and had time to think about it in comparison to this. But on his... I'm maybe playing devil's advocate, it was on his left in comparison to his right, but fluffed it. And I think the crowd were almost expecting a goal there. Obviously, maybe he was as well after it. But yeah, kind of after that chance, I think you start to see a lot of seats starting to empty after Nunes missed it.
Yeah. It was... I really like Jacob Greaves' reaction. Because it was on his left foot.
Yeah.
And he just absolutely swung at it. Like, the lack of composure was something I would have done, basically. Like, this is my big moment, and absolutely take a swing and kick high and wide and horribly unhandsome. But yeah, Jacob Greaves just like turned around with his head in his hands in kind of like disgust. I think Big Jacob probably would have put that in the roof of the net. Backed him on that. It was not his not his best moment. And it's a real shame because obviously it would have been great for us to win the game, but also for him, to back up the weekend and to really keep things rolling, it would have been great. And again, I don't want to harp back to that season too much, but a big secret to our success that year was obviously the late goals
Yeah,
and
I was thinking it as well.
winning games we were winning games at the death and all the rest of it. And that breeds so much confidence in a team because you're like, well, we're never beaten. We can always win a game. And those margins haven't really gone for us this season. The finishing just wasn't great, was it? And we talked about it. You've got players who don't have confidence, haven't really got on the score sheet this year. And then a bit of lack of composure as well from sort of Nunes in that moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cost us, unfortunately, not picking up the 3 points.
Yeah, so we did end the game with a 1-1 draw. We'll look ahead slightly now, Richard, to Saturday's game. We're travelling down to South Wales to play Swansea. My in-laws are from South Wales, so I got a bit of a tit for tat heading into this game, and then Wrexham after that as well. So it's an all Welsh affair for me coming up. But yeah, it should be an interesting game. Obviously, you might see some familiar faces with Cameron Burgess being a Swansea this season. Obviously not at Portman Road, but that will be a player we're very much familiar with. They're sitting around 17th. Obviously, at time recording, they haven't played their midweek game. They're playing up at Deepdale Preston, which is a very tough place to play, as we know very well this season. Looking at the home form this season, I mean, their last few games as well, they drew to Charlton, beat Norwich, but who doesn't beat Norwich? Lost to QPR. I mean, it's a difficult league to predict anyway because so many teams beat each other and then lose to each other. But their home form has been a bit inconsistent in the league, at least. I mean, they did win their last home game against Norwich, but then they lost. They didn't win for 3 games in a row. So it's hard to know what going into it. Obviously, we'd like to be favourites going into it, but on the road, it's always proved harder to be, hasn't it? And do you expect it to be a cagey affair as it has been for much part on the road this season?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I think they've got 17 points, haven't they? So they're only 3 behind us. I think anyone down from where they are to sort of like where we are,
There's a big gap after
it's
that,
pretty tight. Yeah, there's a big gap after that. Yeah, and a few teams, have been cut adrift a little bit at the moment. But yeah, it will be a tough game. I don't think it's ever an easy place to go. If the weather's not great, that will play a part as well at grounds like that. It kind of swirls around and all that sort of thing. Big Burgess, Big Burgess is going to be after a bit of revenge, potentially. He might leave one or two of the Ipswich attackers. But yeah, it will be tough. Obviously tonight was a bit of not a disaster by any means compared to what we had at Charlton a couple of weeks ago. But disappointing. I think we can say it was disappointing. So obviously we'll be trying to bounce back, and I would like to see him go back to the side that basically played against QPR last week to see if you can get a bit of momentum away from home with that team. Hopefully Davis can come back. We don't really know at this point. It is an injury, and he doesn't get many of them. So maybe you want to just say, okay, we'll just keep him wrapped up in cotton wool for a couple of weeks and get him ready for when the fixtures pick up again in a couple of weeks' time. But yeah, obviously Ben Johnson played there, and we haven't really talked about him. He was all right. I mean, look, he's been in and out of he's been out of the squad for such a long time. I think it's quite harsh to think he's going to come in and deliver. But it's quite telling, I think, that he was picked out of the blue ahead of Ashley Young. I was quite surprised about that. What do you think?
Yeah. Just finish up on that. I was a bit surprised as well when I saw the 11. I kind of assume like if we are to have any sort of midweek rotation in the back, at least on the fullback areas, Ashley Young seems like a given for me, to be honest. And so I was very surprised about maybe it's due to fitness. I want to say at his age, but he played a full Prem season last year. So I'm not sure, to be honest. Maybe it's a chance to give Ben Johnson a run around. I'm not sure. But yeah, he didn't
It's funny.
do any bad favours for himself. Like the goal was kind of conceded on the other side of the field, out of position a few times trying to go forward. But the left side always goes forward for us when Davis is there, so he's probably trying to just keep the same sort of flow as a team and try and do his best up there as he could. But obviously, he hasn't got the pace to get back and the skill for going forward as much as Davis has. But it's been many questionable performances from him in the Ipswich shirt, but tonight that game wasn't one of them. It's just unfortunate that he's never really going to have a chance to, at least for now, for the time being, prove his worth in Township or give us much to go on, really, because we're not really expecting to see much when Furlong and Davis are both fit.
No, it remains a very strange position in the squad, though, doesn't it? It's like what Rob always says about it being an imbalanced squad. You know, we've got how many fullbacks have we signed over the last couple of years, and we still don't really, apart from Davis,
Hmm.
have ones that you have total confidence in. It's a strange situation, really.
We would have had Townsend there all season, obviously, but of his horrific injury, that's kind of thrown a spanner in the works very late in the window.
That's true.
Because he was like in the last stages of last season. Looks really, really assured that left back.
He was great.
Yeah, it was real shame to lose him. If he was there, we would have had a full West Brom back four as well at one point. So, but yeah, we'll end the show there. As I said, we'll be back next week recapping Town's game at Swansea. I won't be on the show. I'm heading away this weekend, but Richard and Rob will be on hand to recap all things Ipswich Town and bring you the latest episode of Tractor Noise. Whilst you're here, if you want to head to our socials, as you guys have started to do in the recent weeks, we really do appreciate that, and give us a rating wherever you get your podcast from. Give us a like or subscribe on YouTube as well. All that stuff really does help us out, and we do really, really appreciate that. We'll see you next week for Town's game against Swansea, and have a great weekend, everyone.